Howdy, lieutenants and economists.
The most volatile, evil, disgusting things on the planet, humans. If you have a video request, you can always go to assholeconsulting.com.
Yeah, I am gonna charge you, kids. And that is the importance of not fucking up.
You are such an asshole!
Hey kids, old Capmeister here. Got a simple question, but it's not going to be a simple answer because there is no, well, there is a correct answer. They all pretty much equally suck. I mean, we're talking photo line finish between these three competitors. Hi Cappy, which is the worst generation of the three, boomers, Gen X, or millennials? Best wishes, Anonymous. So, and there is, like I said, this will largely be opinion about the only study I've done where I've looked at something empirically, aside from the research I'm doing for the book now. And somebody wanted me to look up who voted for larger government or smaller government, or who voted Republican or Democrat back when they were younger the most. And by far was the millennials. The millennials just could not get enough of Obama's dick. And you remember them, they were all starstruck because they're stupid. But the boomers, surprisingly, were quite conservative. At least in their voting. I know you all need, well, man, we just had peace and love, which is true. There was the hippies. But Nixon got elected. Reagan got elected. And the boomers are there. And today the boomers also vote primarily conservative. And that's just the trend of every generation. You're an idiot when you're younger. And you get wiser and you become more conservative. That's how, and it's true. It's true. Don't know why you gotta live 3 decades voting for Marxism when you should know better, but how come the electricity isn't working, man? I majored in English. I deserve electricity, man. Sorry, Cappy's got a cold. Anyway, Here's and then I've done my research on millennials, and I grew up Gen X, and here's what it boils down to. All three generations are horrible. All of them. The boomers started it, and they raised Gen X and parts of millennials, and Gen X also partly raised some of the millennials as well. I said, shit begat shit squared, which begat shit cubed. The average quality of your average American is going down the toilet. And you could say, well, the millennials then really suck compared to the boomers or the Gen Xers. And on a linear or objective or unadjusted measure, they do, but you got to understand where they came from. They were raised by boomers. Gen X was raised by boomers. Some millennials were unfortunate enough to be raised by Gen Xers. And I'm seeing some kids being born now raised by millennials. Now we're going to have shit quadrupled. We're going to have shit to the fourth power. I don't know what that generation's going to be called, but they're going to be shit. They're going to be really, really, really shitty. So when you adjust for that, accounting for where they came from, they're all shit, man. They're all shit. Gen Xers were fake, fraudulent. We're not that big of a population. And there wasn't the internet around when we were young and doing stupid shit. So the stupid shit, like the Tide Pod consumption, that didn't make the news because the news was analog back then. So there's an element of, were the Gen Xers or boomers really better than the millennials? Yeah, we were. Or was it that they didn't have the internet and there was just this dumb, stupid, crazy shit going on? Some of that is also true there as well. But to be honest, if you want to make adjustments for what they were given, what they were brought up under, and their conditions, I would have to say the boomers are the worst. The boomers are the worst. Not by a long shot. The millennials, oh my God. The research, even if it wasn't the internet, the research I've been doing on the millennials is just, that is a failed crop. That is a generation, and I know we have, thousands of young millennial people that tune in, and we're not talking about you guys because you guys actually work hard, but for every one of you, there's 10 of these dipshits out there who in their 30s are still living at home and believe in socialism. We're going, Bernie Sanders. They don't want to bail out the banks, but they want to bail out themselves from their student loans. They are really close to the boomers, but the boomers had fucking everything. That's the reason why I'm going to say the boomers are the worst, is because they had it fucking all. They had surpluses. They had, we were dominant. We had sovereignty. And they're like, well, let everybody in. No, let's get rid of, because just to keep them, so you know, Gen X is just now starting to become elected into positions of power. You know, Obama was, I think, the last, well, not the last boomer, that's Trump. The next president will hopefully be a Gen Xer. Where was I going with that? Oh, shit. Where was I going with that? Fuck. I lost it. Yeah. And the boomers had it all, man. They had, that's where I was going to go. They had no debts, no deficits until 71. They had sovereignty, and as elected officials who led the government, they let every illegal alien in. In some states, you don't even need ID to vote. Like, they just took the United States and threw it away. Just threw it the fuck away. The boomers are the first generation to lie to their kids. They were the first ones to lie to their children. Follow your heart and the money will follow. Marxism is great. Leftism is great. They lied to a successive generation of millennials. They just shit the fucking bed, and they make us sleep in it. And since if you want to use this as an objective measure, how far did the country fall in terms of economic power, financial stability, other kind of measures that you would measure the strength of a country by? How far did the country fall under each generation? It dropped the most under the boomers. I mean, we were number fucking one. Number one. And we dropped the fuck down. A lot. And then Gen X, yeah, we further deteriorated, but nowhere near the drop. And the millennials, that's a pretty more significant drop, but nothing compared to the drop from the boomers down. And so, given the lack of stewardship, given how they had everything and they fucked it up, and I would also cite the boomers as the worst generation because they're the ones that made divorce popular. You didn't know this, love, you were too young. But back in the 70s and the 80s, baby boomers would have masturbation festivals, and they'd whack their pud around a campfire, worshiping the great divorce gods. And then they'd go and divorce each other. And then they get married, and then they get divorced again, they get married, get divorced. And they'd worship Moloch jerking off for the divorce gods. I think Moloch is a divorce god. Or maybe one of his minions. That's another reason where they just destroyed the nuclear family and took children and marriage as, not really. It's optional. All those vows, it's bullshit. So that right there. And now each successive generation, they're like, hey, well, if my parents did it, we can get divorced too. So they started it. They normalized it. So for those two things, the dramatic drop over the course of the boomers, and then treating their children like shit, frankly, and making that normal. Like, oh, you don't need fathers, you don't need nuclear families. Nah, go, get it, go. That's why I would say the boomers are the worst. If you had to do 1, 2, and 3. So it'd be boomers first, millennials a distant second, not too distant. I mean, like the boomers got 100%. Millennials got a 97, 98, and the Gen Xers got a 96, 97. I mean, Gen X and millennials are really tied because, dude, Gen Xers were dipshits. They were assholes. They were arrogant, cocky pricks. One thing, a compliment I will give to millennials, at least you guys got rid of this fucking vanity of like, oh, I have to have this type of shirt and this type of shoes, the brand name shit. At least you guys got rid of that. Gen X, ironically, got rid of it in the 90s. Like, good. It was like, oh, did you have the right jeans? Do you have the right shirt? Do you have the right thing? Dude, man, we're going, like, 92 to 93. It was like, you either wore that or you were not cool too. Dude, man, I shop at Rakestock, man. And they were the original millennials, I'll also point out. Gen X was the original millennials. They started putting mascara on their eyes. They started doing tattoos on their eyes. People were wearing nylon. Emo, dude, you millennials didn't emo. The Gen Xers, we emoed first. It's just there wasn't enough of us, or we weren't a big enough generation. Yeah, Gen X was dumber than fuck. They still are dumber than fuck. And you could even argue, this is where I say Gen X maybe tied the millennials, is who do you think now is in charge of all this corporate virtue signaling? Keep in mind, Gen X is now your professors and your bosses and your managers and your corporate executive types. They're the ones who just cannot get enough of this like Nazi level Orwellian language we have. Or where I got at, what was the Gillette commercial, toxic masculinity, that's Gen X. So if you consider that, you know, all these, the ones that make you take diversity and inclusion classes that have nothing to do with your degree. I mean, it was bad enough when we went to college. Now the bullshit that they're making you millennials and now you Gen Zers take, that's Gen X. So boomers are definitely the worst, 100%. Gen X and millennials, they're around that 97, 98% mark. They're very close, but they're not as bad as the boomers. But by God did they try. By God did they try. And then the millennials, as much as I hate Gen X, my God, it's at least Gen X, there was some testosterone. You could ask a girl out and you wouldn't be accused of rape or assault or sexual harassment. Although I remember though, I do remember there were a couple times where you'd be at a party, you try and kiss a girl, then all of a sudden like, oh wait a minute, the seeds were starting to be sown. They were starting to be sown. You just hammer it off your ass at a good college party, just a good college party. And then no college party is good unless you get shot down by a girl. That's the key thing to have a good college party. But yeah, between Gen X and the millennials, who dukes it out, I don't know. By the time we're the boomers age, we'll find out. We'll see if any of them have a saving grace. We'll see if, Gen X will get its head out of its ass. I think it's too late for Gen X. Gen X is dumb. They're just as, I know everyone gives you millennial shit, but Gen X is just as dumb and just as brainwashed. Well, maybe not as dumb and as brainwashed, but they swallowed a lot of bullshit whole. But the millennials, holy cow, I mean, I'm just pulling the statistics on driver's licenses. At least we got our driver's license. I mean, we're getting to the point, did you wipe your own ass with the millennials? That's almost how bad it's become with the millennials. And at least Gen X, we didn't have this safe space and microaggression bullshit. Although Gen X professors did instill that. But yeah, so it's boomers, then I'd say millennials, but possibly tied with Gen X for the worst. So, all right, questions, answers, links to everything down below. Go to Asshole Consulting if you got questions and got money, because I'll give you the answer for that money. AssholeConsulting.com. And then look for my book coming out here in about a month or two. Depends on how quickly I get to write it. How Not to Become a Millennial. So we'll see you guys later. Toodles.